What's up, everybody? Welcome to week 5 of the NFL season. We got live football on tap again right now, Brant. We've got the Jags up 8 points currently in London on the Buffalo Bills. Another week of football from start to finish, sunrise to sunset. I'm not even sure the sun's completely up on the West Coast yet, and we've got football that's already almost into the first quarter. So it's definitely a good week when you've got football all day. That usually means good eats all day. I know you said you were starting off the family with some McDonald's breakfast. Throwing down. We had to get rid of some expired cereal here in the house, so we didn't throw down on necessarily any good breakfast today. But nonetheless, we've got football. We've got fantasy. It's starting to feel like fall weather where we're at, Brant. It's definitely a good time here. It's starting to feel pretty football-y around here.
Oh yeah, definitely is. And 2 or 3 weeks in a row that we'll be getting live early morning games. It's definitely worth waking up for. I did wake up a little earlier today, like almost this week has been a very good weekend for me. So I've been up early both days, like a kid on Christmas. So I'm excited to enjoy some football. This morning, I did promise the family some family gathering events today. So I will miss the afternoon slate, but I'll be back for the 3 o'clock.
Okay. All right. We've got our first question here from Amy. Amy says, good morning, guys. PPR, this is all the same sad, broken team. Sit one between Pickens, Watson, Dobbs, and Judy. So who are you sitting there, Brant, between George Pickens, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, and Jerry Judy?
Pickens, Watson, Dobbs, and Judy. I think Judy is beneficiary. I actually am probably going to man, all those are tough choices. I think they're all pretty even. Honestly, I think I'm going to sit Judy. I just think the Jets defense is really good, and I think that he could end up being the downgrade out of all these. I hate telling you to start 2 Green Bay Packers, but I think that Judy will be the worst of the 4 there.
Yeah, I think, Amy, if you're saying this is a sad, broken team, that you're probably looking for high point totals. So I think Christian Watson's a must start. George Pickens is a must start. Those guys are both home run plays. So then it does become down to Dobbs and Judy for me. I think you do actually start Judy just because there's the chance that Sauce Gardner stays on one side of the field, and maybe you get some decent matchups out of Judy. Off and on during that game. So I think Dobbs is the one I'd leave to the bench, even though he could have a huge game too. It's like Brant said, I don't necessarily love starting 2 players from the same team. And I'm just as big of a Christian Watson truther as they come, Brant. You know that. So for me, I can't leave him out. The next one is Ertz or Waller this week, Brant. Are you staying on the Waller train, or are you hopping off that finally?
I'm not hopping off of that train, but I am saying that Zach Ertz is probably one of the best starts this week. I expect him to finish inside the top 5 of tight ends. I absolutely love his matchup this week. So I actually am going to go with Zach Ertz, I have him in multiple DFS lineups, and I have him in our underdog plays that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, it's also Zach Ertz for me. I'm not leaving him out. Then she says 3, I can play Zeke at 1 o'clock or wait for Javonte Williams' status. However, I do have McLaughlin too. So knowing that she has the clear handcuff to Javonte Williams, Brant, how do you feel about waiting for Javonte over Zeke?
I'm waiting for Javonte. I think I don't think he does play, and I do like McLaughlin. Against the Jets defense, I think that there could be some dump off passes in his future. So I actually am going to go with wait, just stay and wait. I'm not a fan of Zeke and his role. We expected a huge role last week, and he didn't look that great. So I would wait on that.
Yeah, I do also think, Brant, you're probably right here. I think I go with Javonte Williams. As much as I don't love him this year, I think I play him and then or put him in my lineup and pivot to McLaughlin if he is unable to go. All right, Tony says, good morning, guys. With St. Brown likely out today, what's the better play, Josh Reynolds or Jordan Addison? Brant, what do you think here?
I'm going with Jordan Addison. I believe this game turns into a shootout. It is the highest point total on the week. I am going to go with Jordan Addison. I expect him to find the end zone this week, and I expect him to have a good game. So I'm going to go with Jordan Addison here.
Okay, I like Jordan Addison on this one as well, Brant. Just like you said, that game should be a shootout. The one caveat I have to this, if you will, is Jahmyr Gibbs is also unlikely, and David Montgomery to this point has been a guy that is getting 30 plus carries a week. The Panthers offense and defense are kind of reeling this season, so I could see this being a game where Jared Goff doesn't have to throw too awful much, and that would make me kind of nervous about his pass catchers there. Mark says, good morning. Need 2 in PPR. Tank Dell, Robert Woods, Jerry Jeudy, or Jaden Reed, Brant?
Let's see. Give me just 1 second. Tank Dell, Robert Woods, Jerry Jeudy. I am going with need 2. Give me Tank Dell and man, that second one's tough. I want to say Reed. Jeudy scares me this week. I'm not a big fan of Woods. I think I'm going to go with Tank Dell, and I think I'll go with Jeudy just because I think it's the safer play.
Yeah, I'm on pace with you on this one, Brant. I think it's Tank Dell and Jerry Jeudy. Again, I like what I'm seeing out of CJ Stroud right now. Even though he's coming into Atlanta and playing my Falcons, I still think he's in line for another good week this week. So I think Tank Dell is probably a must start for most folks this week. So Tank Dell and Jerry Jeudy. Yusuf says, good morning, guys. Full PPR. Which 4 would you start out of 5? Dobbs, Flowers, Garrett Wilson, Tank Dell, and Jerry Jeudy. We're getting a lot of Jeudy questions here today, Brant. He says, plus he's got Higbee playing versus Philly, playing over Ferguson at San Francisco. So we'll get into that tight end part second. Who's the guy that you don't trust to start out of those top 5 today, Brant?
Man, I think I go Jeudy again here. I am not benching Wilson. I am not benching Flowers. I really feel like this is a Tank Dell week. I think I have to bench Jeudy out of that again.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to be, oh, Brant. You know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say I'm sitting Zay Flowers in this one. That unpopular opinion. I'm not starting Zay Flowers today. I think this is a game where in division, one of the lower point totals of the week. Actually, it is the lowest point total of the week. I don't expect to see a whole lot of passing out of Lamar Jackson today, so I'm gonna sit Zay Flowers. Okay. And then we move on to the tight end spot. Brant, how do you feel about Higbee versus the Eagles over Ferguson versus the Niners?
I'm starting Ferguson with Kupp coming back, Nuka coming on, Tutu doing just fine. Them saying Kupp won't be on a snap count. I don't know if I trust Higbee to be getting all those targets, so I'm actually going to start Ferguson. Ferguson could see a lot of dump offs with that vicious pass rush coming at Dak, so I'm actually going to go with Ferguson.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go the same, Brant. My only issue is that I think you see a lot more passing out of the Rams than you do out of the Cowboys, just simply due to the fact that the Eagles defense isn't real great against the pass so far this year. And I think the addition of Kupp should open up a little bit more high value targets for Higbee. Just due to the fact that they should move the ball a little bit better, that he should be the fourth or fifth option in that offense. So it should have pretty soft coverage against him. I don't know. I think I probably still go Ferguson, but it's really close for me.
Okay.
Matt says, good morning, guys. I have a 2-part question. First, best option at wide receiver 2, Debo, Hollywood, or Michael Pittman, Brant? Who do you like out of those guys? Or is there a clear one that you get rid of first?
Pittman's one of my favorite ones of the week. We talked about that on our Fantasyholics cash show on Wednesday. I love Michael Pittman. I don't like Debo this week. So actually, I think I'd go Pittman out of all three of those.
Okay. I actually think I'm going Hollywood Brown out of this one. Josh Dobbs has looked really good. Hollywood's looked really good this year. We talked about him also on a cast this week, Brant, as a buy candidate. Dobbs has got me believing in that offense. Not something I necessarily thought I would be believing in at this point in time. But I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown here on that first part. I just haven't seen enough Anthony Richardson yet to think that I genuinely trust him. And again, we do get Jonathan Taylor back this week, even if it's on a snap count. So I think that does change the course of the offense a little bit this week. And then the second best flex is at either Isaiah Pacheco or Alexander Madison, Brant. So running backs in the same game there.
I think I go with Pacheco. I think Akers takes a little more into that snap count, and I like Pacheco this week against Minnesota, so I'm going to go with Pacheco.
Yeah, I think Alexander Madison is just fine this week. Again, I traded for Cam Akers in a couple leagues, hoping that I'd be feeling a little bit better about him, but I think Alexander Madison has looked fine the last 2 weeks. So I think either one of these guys would be okay, but I do think there's a softer defense for the run on the Vikings side of the ball. So I do go Pacheco just because he should see the softer defense and probably catch more passes than Madison will as well. So I go Pacheco for that second part. So unanimous on that one. Amy says Ramondre, Najee, or Miles, Brant. Any of these feel startable to you this week?
As gross as it is, I think I still go with Najee. I know he had 111 yards in his last visit with against Baltimore last year. He's been over 60 yards in the last 4 games against him. I just think Najee is the way to go. I think they try to keep the ball out of Lamar's hands, so I go with Najee.
Yeah, again, Brant, we're in agreement on this one. I think, I just think Miles Sanders against that Lions run defense, who's been very stingy with the likes of, Bijan Robinson. I know Kenneth Walker had a 2-touchdown game, but his yards were almost non-existent in that one, Brant. So, Miles Sanders is not as explosive as either Kenneth Walker nor Bijan. And if those Lions could hold those guys in check, I don't expect a huge day for Miles. So he's the immediate out for me. And then I move over to this Ramondre Stevenson. The New Orleans Saints are still a formidable run defense. And the problem is they came out and said last week Zeke was going to be the guy. So, who knows with a Bill Belichick. The worst thing that happened to Ramondre this year was Elliott coming to town because it just gave Bill Belichick that player to screw us all over in fantasy. So, for those 2 reasons, I don't love Najee this year. I thought I would. He's starting to get better each and every week. He needs to find the end zone for us. But I do think Najee's probably the one to go just because the other options are pretty disgusting, in my opinion. All right. Kevin says, good morning, guys. Who should I flex, Swift or Jacoby Myers?
As much as I love Jacoby this week, I have to go with Swift. He's red hot. He's the hot hand there in Philly. Give me Swift.
Yeah, I think Jacoby Myers is finally starting to come on really big time here. Brant's got to be loving that because he's been a Jacoby Myers guy.
I'm starting him this week.
Since he came into the league, he's stayed on that one for quite a while. So I happy to see that for Brant's sake, but we're going Swift here. Just like Brant said, he's been hot as heck. And I'm not sure the Rams defense is slowing that down at all today. So we go with Swift on that one.
I'm only starting Jacoby because Amaron's out.
Well, perfect segue here, Brant. Joe says, with no Amon-Ra today, need one. Hurst, Bourne, Akers, or Gainwell in PPR.
Wow. What does New England have? Why can't I find this game on my sheet here?
The Saints.
I hate to say it, but I think I go with Hurst here. I think he has the best PPR upside. I think he could be the one to see the targets. I think I go with Hurst.
I don't love any of these, Brant. Give me Bourne. Give me Bourne. Mac Jones has been throwing the ball so much more than I expected him to this year. These guys are coming off of an absolute disappointing week last week. Belichick was beside himself with the quarterback play. I think you're going to see much better quarterback play today. Give me Bourne. Again, I think it's a shot in the dark, but I think it's got the best upside. Hurst is probably the safest play out of the four guys here. Bourne's got the highest ceiling, so give me Bourne. All right, Kevin says, how do you guys think Cup will be today, Brant? Do you have any tempered expectations, or are you going straight into this is the Cup of old?
I'm tempering expectations this week. If I have him, I'm starting him just because it is Cooper Kupp. But I am very much tempering expectations. I don't expect him to return straight to form, straight to that status. But I do expect a good game out of him this week, in a game that should be a shootout there in LA.
Yeah, I do think, again, I'm not sure we see Kupp put up the numbers that he did last year just because Puka Nacua has looked so good. Sean McVay's not going to completely go away from that. Kyron Williams, his numbers have been good. He's not the most efficient back, but his numbers have been good. So yeah, I just think it'd be really hard for Kupp to get back to being the sole only part of that offense, like he has been in the past, making fantasy so much easier because you have him in your lineup. I don't know if we ever get back to that. There will be some wide receiver 1 weeks incoming. I just don't know if it happens today, just because I do think Puka Nacua will take plenty of targets away from him, and they will run the ball. So I do have lowered expectations this week. I wouldn't be shocked to see him be a 15-point game guy today this week, though. That'd be a really comfortable number, maybe 5 or 6 receptions, 60 yards, somewhere in there. But that's about all I have for him today. Chris says Jonnu Smith or Dalton Schultz. So for me, this is one that I hate because I own Kyle Pitts in a lot of leagues, and I've pivoted and gone out and got Jonnu Smith in a couple of places just because he has been pretty good this year. He's like the leading target for the Falcons. So outside of Bijan Robinson, I do think I go Dalton Schultz, though, between the two, just because I don't trust Desmond Ridder at all. And the minute you plug in a Falcons wide receiver, pass catcher, tight end, Desmond Ridder's going to forget that player exists, like he has with Kyle Pitts and Drake London. So I do go Dalton Schultz just because CJ Stroud's looks so good at this point. Yeah, it's Schultz for me.
It's Schultz for me as well, just because I think Houston's going to throw the ball more efficiently. So I'm going to go with Schultz.
All right. Kevin says, is Kyron Williams a must start this week versus Philly, or should I flex Jacoby Myers over Kyron?
I'm flexing Jacoby over Kyron in actually one of my leagues too. Against Philly, I think I'm avoiding starting a running back. I mean, I could be completely wrong. He could blow up against Philly, but I think I'm going to avoid starting that running back, and I'm going to flex Jacoby.
Yeah. So this is one of them that I want to go away from the stud here. But how do you sit a guy like Kyron Williams, who's been as hot as he has? I think I have to stay with Kyron just because he has been so good. Kupp coming back should open, the offense up. They should still be in the red zone plenty of times, and he's been so electric with touchdowns this year. His touchdown equity he may be this year's Jamal Williams. The efficiency numbers, like I said, aren't great. His missed tackles are pretty bad. His yards after contact's pretty low. His explosiveness is pretty low, but I just don't think I can take him out of my lineup at this point. He's getting too much touchdown equity. Ryan says Javonte or Raheem Mostert, Brant?
Mostert, because I don't know if Williams is going to play. They're playing a weak Giants defense there in Miami. and I think they're coming for blood. I think I'm going to start Mostert and hope that he finds the end zone.
Yeah, I'm in agreement here. It's Mostert. I know that A-Chain has come on pretty strong. I know Jeff Wilson's back. But I do still think that you have to go Mostert here just because you don't know what's going to happen with Javonte. That is a later game today, so you'd need clarity on that beforehand. I don't expect Javonte to have much of a role today if he plays, so I think you go Mostert.
Jeff Wilson is not back yet, just so you do know. He is not
okay.
back. Yep, not ready to practice, just so you do know.
Okay. Jenna says, pick 3, Wan'Dale Robinson, Zay Flowers, Matt Breida, Drake London, or Khalif Raymond.
If Flowers is my must start, I know that you're going with the unpopular opinion, but Flowers is my must start. I'm going Robinson because he looked his way quite a bit there against Seattle last week. I think he's going to look that way in a shootout game against Miami. I think I'm going to go with Raymond here just because St. Brown's out. Gibbs is banged up. I think I'm going to go with Raymond. Raymond, Robinson, and Flowers are my 3. If Barkley doesn't play, maybe I pivot to Matt Breida, but I think I keep those 3.
Yeah, Wan'Dale Robinson is my must start here. Since he's been healthy, it's been the Daniel Jones is looking at his slot guys, and Wan'Dale's getting the highest percentage of slot targets or slot routes run right now. So I'm going Wan'Dale Robinson for sure. Man. If Barkley doesn't play, number 2 is Breida. And then I think I do go ahead and go with Zay Flowers in this lineup. I don't like him overall today, but Drake London's a guy who's not going in my lineup at all right now. And like I said, I think this Lions game is one that quickly turns into a run fest. So Sam Laporte is still there. Jamison Williams is only going to be on the field for like 20 snaps. I'm sure they're going to try to get the ball in his hand a decent amount. I just don't know what to expect out of that Lions game today. So I struggle starting Lions. All right. Colby says, pick 2 wide receivers in full point PPR. He's got Tank Dell versus my Falcons, Rashee Rice versus the Vikings, or Joshua Downs versus the Titans. Brant, where are you at on these 3?
I'm going with Tank Dell, and I'm going with Rashee Rice. We talked about that the other day on prior to one of our casts the other day. I really do like Rice coming on, so I'm going to go with Rice and Tank Dell out of those 3.
Yeah, it's Tank Dell and Rashee Rice for me as well. We like Brant had mentioned, we talked about these, and I think Rashee Rice is the most likely Chiefs wide receiver to break out and come on strong here. And eventually somebody's going to emerge. Rashee Rice is a guy that I think, as the season progresses, he just keeps getting better. So I go with Dell and then Rice as well. Downs, again, it's one of those things in Indy, we haven't seen enough of Anthony Richardson to know who his guy's going to be. And again, I think Jonathan Taylor, even if he is on a snap count today, is going to alter that offensive game plan a little bit. So, yeah, I'm hesitant to play anybody in Indy today. All right, Brant. So you've got no Seattle football this week. Your team is on a bye. So what game are you take the whole slate? What's one game that you're just really looking forward to watching this week?
Philly at the Rams. And not just because I do have a whole bunch of Philly players in my dynasty lineup. I expect that game to actually be pretty exciting, back and forth, shootout game, points be put on the board. I absolutely want to see what the Rams look like when they get their star back in Cooper Kupp. They've been a surprise to the league this year. And I expect that game to be a lot closer than some people are thinking. I expect this game to turn into a shootout, and I really like the chance to watch this game.
Yeah, and you are a closet Eagles fan. Like you mentioned, you have 37 Eagles players on your fantasy football teams. So
11 of them are on the defense.
I honestly, I think I like the Giants and Dolphins. The Dolphins offense has been completely electric this year. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and the Giants offense really hasn't been, but the Dolphins are giving up so much passing work that I'd like to see. I've been waiting for it. I'm starting to think it's Wan'Dale Robinson, but I really, 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 really want to know who that wide receiver to own in the New York Giants offense is. There may not be one right now. I still don't love the idea of owning Wan'Dale Robinson, but he is the one to have, in my opinion, at this point. Maybe we get some clarity on that. This game is a good game if Saquon Barkley manages to be out there on the field. If he doesn't, well, maybe not then. All right, Bill asks in PPR, do you start Raheem Mostert or Alexander Madison, Brant?
I think I go with Mostert still. Out of these two, I'm kind of off the Madison thing right now. I know he's had 2 good weeks. He's played 2 bottom tier defenses as he has had those weeks. He did not look good leading up to those weeks. So I think I'm still leaning Mostert right now.
I go Madison here. The thing for me is I'm not scared of Cam Akers at this point. Devin A-Chain does scare me a little bit more because he's been pretty good too, and he's so fast. So I just think I go Alexander Madison. He's grinding out in Minnesota. He's getting plenty of touches, whereas Mostert and Devon A-Chain, those guys' touches are much lower. They're just much more explosive. So I do think I go Madison here just because I'm pretty comfortable with him. I own him in a few leagues, and he's not coming out of my lineups right now. So I do like Madison this week as well. All right, Brant. So we talk about these usually a little bit later, but I want to get into these right now because we both had some guys that we really, really like. Let's talk about our anytime touchdown scorers this week.
Okay. My first one is Bijan Robinson. He's going against the Houston Texans. He's getting a lot of work. He's starting to really take over your backfield. I know Algier still out there to spill the workload a little bit, but I expect Bijan to have a huge game this week. I could honestly see him finishing as RB1 this week.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit too, Brant. I think Bijan Robinson's a guy I'm going to talk about a little bit later on as well. But yeah, he's definitely the only reason to tune in to watch a Falcons game at this point, right? I have Zach Ertz to find the end zone today. You and I are both in a unanimous decision that he's probably a top 5 tight end this week. I just think Joshua Dobbs is allowed me to have some established faith in the passing game in Arizona, and I think Zach Ertz just happens to find the end zone today.
Okay. My another one I have, this is a little long shot one, and that's Marvin Mims there in Denver. I expect him to be the guy that is running all over the field. His snap count's gone up. His targets per snap is crazy. When he's out there, he's seeing the targets. I expect him to find the end zone because I think Sutton and Judy will be covered by the top 2 corners there, and I think Mims will be the guy that might be running free when he is out there.
That is a dive. I like that one. That one's got to have some pretty good plus money on it, Brant. A guy I love and a guy you don't love so much. Alexander Madison finds the end zone this week, Brant. Again, opportunity creates volume and creates valuable touches. He's getting all that right now. I like him to find the end zone in a game that should be a shootout. Again, as you mentioned earlier, highest point total from Vegas this week. I think Alexander Madison gets involved in the scoring.
Okay. Another one that I like, and it's going to be 2. It's going to be out of the same game. I'm going to take Taylor and Henry to both find the end zone in that game. I'm going to put them both together. I'm going to expect both running backs to find the end zone that game in that game.
Okay, I like it. My fantasy team would really appreciate that happening. I've got Jalen Waddle scoring a touchdown today in that Dolphins and Giants game. I know that you expect a big game out of Tua again this week. So for that reason, Jalen Waddle is a guy that I expect to find pay dirt.
I do expect a big game out of him. I know when we get to our picks of the week, it's not going to sound like I do, but I do expect a big game out of him. So my last one that I have right now is I expect Zay Flowers to find the end zone in the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. I'm going with my guy. I think he's a great start this week. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers to find the end zone.
Okay, fair enough. I can't argue it, Brant. I won't attempt to argue it. I just we'll see. I hate being proved wrong, but maybe I will be again this week. We'll see. I'm going with a guy that had 25 touches on his debut last week. Alvin Kamara to find the end zone. 14 receptions to go along with 11 carries. It's very clear, even in his first week back from his suspension, that the New Orleans offense is going to run through him moving forward. I expect all those touches to result in him finding the end zone this week. A big fantasy day coming in. We all know that it's hard to beat the Patriots due to the way Bill Belichick takes away your best scoring option. And I do think that at this point, still in time, he's going to take away Olave and Michael Thomas. So I'm expecting a big week for Alvin Kamara.
Okay.
All right, Brant. So let's start talking about some of these games here a little bit. So the Ravens Steelers is the lowest point total game on the week, according to Vegas. 38.5 points is what they're expecting to see scored. So is this a game that you think is going to be one of those typical AFC North divisional matchups where it's just super physical, super ground and pound? Like, what are you expecting out of this game?
I expect it to be a normal divisional matchup. One in the trenches, see who can get the ball moving more. It's really surprising to see this to be the lowest scoring game of the week when you do have, the top two defenses facing each other later on. But yeah, I expect this just to be a normal division matchup. Just like I said, just one in the trenches, see who can move the ball the best. I expect some, after the play words, some flags to be thrown, maybe a couple ejections, but I expect this to be a normal physical pound on each other game.
Yeah, I think you could see this turn into a Gus Edwards versus Najee Harris kind of a game where let's see which side of the ball or which side of the team can move the other back and pick up 3 yards at a time. Kind of a game. I know the NFL has kind of evolved, but it's just something about when those NFC North teams play that it just turns into one of those run fests. So we'll see what happens with that one, Brent. That's one that I definitely think I will be tuned into on the noon slate. All right. So John Felipe Gammon says PPR benching Stevenson, Dell, or Rice for last place on flex. Who do you bench here, Brant?
I think I bench Rice. I do like him this week. I think the safer plays is Stevenson will be in the game. Dell will be in the game. So I know Rice should be in the game, but you're not 100% sure what his target share is going to be. So I think it's Rice. I think the other two are the safer play.
Yeah, I think I think there's a good chance that Rice is involved, but again, as Brand alluded to, he's probably the least safe out of all of the plays. So if I'm going with guys that I need points out of, I think Stevenson's probably the guy that I put first in this list. Even though I don't necessarily love him this week, I do I think he'll have the volume like Brand alluded to. And then again, it comes down to Dell or Rice, and I just think Dell is a little safer option right now. Sherman asks Darren Waller or Jake Ferguson. Brant, where are you at on this one?
I think I go with Waller. They're going to have to pass the ball to move it downfield. They're in that Miami, New York game, so I think I have to go with Waller.
Man, Waller has been such a disappointment this year. A lot of us thought he was in for a big workload this year, and it's just not been the case. Daniel Jones doesn't really look to be getting him involved all that much. They traded a 3rd-round pick for him, and then it's like, what's the point here? But eventually, that Giants offense has got to get going to some extent. I would imagine Daniel Jones looked a hell of a lot better last year than he is right now. So I do think I go Waller again here. I don't do it with a lot of enthusiasm on my part. If the Cowboys were playing anybody other than the Niners, I think I would be saying Jake Ferguson here. But that Niners defense is scary. All right, Bill says, thanks, guys. PPR, Tony Pollard or Kyron Williams?
I go Pollard here. That Philly defense scares me, so I think I'm going to go with Pollard.
Man, Pollard against that Niners defense, though, Brant. I think I go Kyron Williams here. I know. He's not been the most effective and efficient. I just think there'll be lots of opportunity for him to have, to punch the ball in here. Pollard scares me against that defense in San Francisco. Brant, for me, it's getting to the point where last year it was we start every running back that plays the Houston Texans. This year it's starting to feel a little bit to me like we don't play the running backs that are playing the San Francisco 49ers just because of how good they've been. So I do go Kyron Williams just because of how bad they scare me. Man. Jennifer says, if Reynolds is out, do I flex Shaheed, Calvin Austin, or Chuba?
Oh, man, that's tough. Man, I think I go with Shaheed. Maybe he's the guy that's the beneficiary of Belichick trying to take out Olave and Michael Thomas. So I think I go with Shaheed.
So Brant, I don't know if you remember in the offseason, I was really advocating hard for Allen Robinson here in Pittsburgh. I've completely changed my tune. I'm 100% on the Calvin Austin hype train. This guy's had targets of 6, 4, 6, and 5 to start the season. He's been on the field for over 50% of the snaps every game. Last week, he got up to 60% or 90% of the snap share. So I'm going Calvin Austin here. I feel like he's the play. He's probably the guy to own in my humble opinion, outside of George Pickens right now in that offense. Obviously, that changes a little bit when Deontay Johnson comes back, probably in a couple weeks. But I'm all aboard the Calvin Austin hype train right now. All right, Mark says injuries have destroyed my running back group. Do I go with Tajay Spears, Jaylen Warren, or Justice Hill?
I'm going with Warren here. I don't know how much Tajay will be on the field this week just because I don't think Tennessee is going to trail. So I think Henry will be seeing a lot of the work. Warren, we know, will get out there on third downs. We know that he'll get a few touches on the ground as well. And just Hill is, if Gus Edwards gets hot, then Hill may not see the field. So I think I go with Warren here.
Yeah, it's Warren for me as well. He's getting plenty of work in Pittsburgh, and he's looked pretty explosive in it. His passing game is there. I go with Warren here in this one. Tyler says George Pickens or Zay Flowers, Brant.
Good decision. Tough decision to have, but it's a good one to have. I go with Zay this week.
Yeah, I go with Pickens. Again, I just think that the Baltimore offense is better. There's more options. No Pat Freiermuth this week. No Deontay Johnson. I do expect a healthy workload of Najee this week. But if Kenny Pickett's going to throw the ball to anybody, it's going to be George Pickens this week. So let me get George Pickens.
Okay.
Paul says, morning, Superflex spot. Am I crazy for going with Zach Wilson over Daniel Jones as quarterback 2? I feel that Zach may have shown more maturity in a small sample size game over Daniel Jones, who really only exploded against Arizona. Brant, I'm going to let you go first because you already know where I'm going with my answer here. So you go ahead and go.
I'm in the same boat as you, man. I'm going Zach Wilson, man. He showed up. He showed up last week. He looked good, and he's playing Denver. Denver has made everybody look good. I like Zach Wilson this week.
Yeah, I on our Wednesday Fantasyholics cast where we put out our fantasy or our FanDuel DFS lineups, I actually took Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson as my quarterback wide receiver stack. I think Denver's defense hemorrhages points. And yeah, Paul, you hit the nail on the head. We actually saw some maturity out of Zach Wilson, who looked absolutely defeated when they ended up losing that game. And instead of pointing fingers at somebody else, he took all the credit. for the loss, talking about how he needed to be better. And I'm not sure where he needed to be much better because he played a pretty darn good game for him. And again, that was against Kansas City, who I think is a more respectable offense than or more respectable defense than the Denver Broncos is. So I'm okay with Zach Wilson this week. Daniel Jones has got to show me something from last year for me to start trusting him because he's been atrocious this year. Jennifer says Jaden Reed or Calvin Austin in the flex, Brant, and full point PPR.
As much as I'm on that Reed train with Watson back and Dobbs there, I think I have to go Austin here. Like you said, Johnson's gone, Freiermuth out. Austin's been a guy that's been seeing some targets, so I think I go with Austin.
Yeah, we're in agreement here, Jennifer. I'm going Calvin Austin as well. Again, George Pickens should be the one that gets the number one coverage there in Baltimore. And again, Austin coming out of the slot should leave him with some pretty good looks. So I do go Calvin Austin here. All right, Brent, let's give a quick recap of what we've seen so far in today's London game that's currently underway. We've got an 11-0 score line right now. Buffalo's offenses looks pretty anemic. Brant, am I missing anything on the Buffalo end of things before we start talking about the Jacksonville side?
As good as their defense looked against Miami last week, it looks like they forgot to get off the airplane there in London. Lawrence has really had his decent way of moving the ball downfield. He already has over 120 passing yards, add a few more right there. Buffalo just looks like they didn't show up to this game on defense.
What are we doing with Calvin Ridley moving forward, Brant? He's got one target, one reception, 14 yards today. Didn't do anything crazy last week either. What are we doing with him moving forward?
Look, if he can't shake off the rust in this game here where they've been in London this entire time, getting themselves together, no jet lag issues, I think you have to temper expectations and start to consider moving him down your lineup. I know you drafted him really high. We both were pretty high on Ridley coming back. Man, it's Lawrence is really spreading the ball out there in Jacksonville. So I think you have to temper expectations.
Yeah, and then the other side of things is Travis Etienne not really having a huge day yet either. 9 for 25 yards, one reception for 6 yards. So really outside of Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, who caught the touchdown, there's not a whole lot going on in this London game so far. So we'll see what the second half yields. I know there's still 5 minutes left in the first half, but so far been a pretty lackluster game.
Defenses are definitely winning this game here right now. Like I said, Lawrence has been able to move the ball, but it's been a defensive battle pretty much.
All right, Chris says George Kittle or Jake Ferguson in this same game again, Brant, where we talked about both of these defenses are tough. Where's your brain at on that one?
It's hurting my brain thinking of this one here because both of them could see plenty of dump offs with the pass rush coming at either quarterback. I think I go with Kittle just because of his yak ability. I really do. I think I go with Kittle.
Oh man, Kittle's not been good this year either, but I do agree here, Brant. I think I go Kittle just because if I expect one of these two guys to break out, I have to go with the one that I know has done it in the past. So I'll go Kittle here. I'm not necessarily in love with Kittle here. Yeah, but if I had to pick one or the other, Brant, I don't see how I don't go with Kittle. All right, Jennifer's got a good question here for us, but we're gonna get into our underdog picks of the week first. I want to save the menu for just a minute. So again, Brant, Fantasyholics partnered with Underdog this year. If you use promo code Holics, they'll double your initial deposit up to $100. Again, it makes all these, like when your team's on a bye week, like Brant's is, it makes it a little bit more exciting if you can throw a little bit of cash down on these games. Have some daily plays that just make the game more exciting. Like if you're watching, I don't know, for me, Brant, I don't own much stock in either offense in the Bengals Cardinals game. So maybe I want to make that game a little more enticing to me. And I say, hey, Joe Burrow's passing numbers are starting to get pretty low. He's going to go over those again at this point. Now I put, a little bit of little bit of dollars down on that, and all of a sudden I have a rooting interest in that game. So again, it's just another way to go ahead and be intrigued by a game that maybe you wouldn't necessarily be to begin with.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let's go ahead and get into this, Brant. All right, Brant, take us away. Give me your first one.
My first one, Michael Pittman, higher than 61.5 receiving yards. You find it extremely hard to run on Tennessee, so I expect Pittman to be the beneficiary of that, and I expect him to be higher than 61.5 receiving yards.
Okay. My first one is a guy you talked about that you think will find the end zone today. I've got Derrick Henry higher than 93.5 rushing and receiving yards today, Brant. I think he hits the century mark in total yards. I like Derrick Henry in this matchup.
Okay. You alluded to it. Maybe you want to put some bread on a game that you're not really interested in, such as the Cincy-Arizona game. How about you put it in for Zach Ertz to go higher than 29.5 receiving yards this week? Zach Ertz, I expect a huge game out of him. We both have talked about it. I expect a big game out of Ertz this week, and I expect him to easily clear that 29.5 receiving yards.
Talk about expectations for a big game, Brant. I've got Jonathan Taylor in his debut game this year going higher than 44.5 rushing yards this week. I like him to, even if he's on a snap count, even if he only sees the field for 15 carries, I think he's going to be explosive. I think he's going to come out and just show what this Indy offense has been lacking. When Zach Moss looks like a competent running back in this offense, that says big things are coming for Jonathan Taylor the rest of the year. And I think it starts today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When I looked at all mine, his rushing yards weren't up there, or I probably would have been salivating on that one too. Talk about rushing yards. I'm going to go with James Conner, who's been a stud this year, who showed it against Dallas, where he was able to run against anyone. I'm going to go with James Conner to go higher than 62.5 rushing yards. I expect Arizona to move the ball in this Cincy offense, and I expect them to be able to move it through the air and on the ground. So I like both of those plays in that game.
You know what I don't like this week, Brant, is Ramondre Stevenson to go higher than 72.5 rushing and receiving yards. I've got him going lower than this week. I don't trust Bill Belichick, and because I don't trust him this week to feed Ramondre Stevenson, he absolutely will do so just to make me look silly, because that's what Bill Belichick does. But I'm going to take the lower on Ramondre Stevenson's total yards this week than 72.5.
Okay. So this guy I really do like this week, but it is going to be a lower pick for me. He has actually gone lower than this pick twice, and the only two times he has gone over this amount of pass attempts were in the two shootouts, and that's going to be Tua to go lower than 33.5 pass attempts this week. He's been very efficient. I don't think he's going to have to pass over 30 times this week. Like I said, the two games he did, it was the 70-point game, and then it was the last week against Buffalo where they were trailing. I don't expect them to trail this game, so I expect him to go over or lower than 33.5 pass attempts.
The guy that I think is going to be in line for RB1 that you think is going to be in line for RB1 this week, Bijan Robinson. I've got him going higher than 27.5 receiving yards. He is the only pass catcher I trust in the Atlanta offense right now, Brant. He's getting plenty of targets every week. I expect him to see well more than 27.5 receiving yards this week.
Okay. Talking about receiving yards, I'm going to go with the quarterback that's going to be blow up this week, and that is Zach Wilson. So his favorite target, who saw, 11 targets last week, I think it was. I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson to go higher than 58.5 receiving yards. I expect a big game out of him. I expect a big game out of the Jets. I expect them to get, put pedal to the metal this week, and I really like him this week to go higher than 58.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I'll talk about a quarterback I don't love this week is Bryce Young, but I do love his number one wide receiver this week. I like Adam Thielen to see higher than 5 receptions this week, Brant. I think he has 7 or 8 this week. He's been the focal point of that passing game in Carolina. I expect that to happen again this week. Adam Thielen higher than 5 receptions.
Okay, I like that one.
All right, here it is. Jennifer says, thanks, guys. Eating anything good? It looks like Taco Bell for lunch and chili for dinner. So, Brant, I'm going to let you start. What's the menu look like today?
Menu is up in the air for us today. Seattle's on a bye. We had a busy day yesterday where we didn't get to spend any time together as a family. So I promised the family today we would go to do a few things this afternoon together. So our menu is actually up in the air. I am not the guy to turn to this week, unfortunately, for a menu. We'll just see how the day plays out.
That's right, Brant. Sometimes family has to come first, and today that's kind of where my life is at as well. I do get the noon slate to kind of just hang out and watch football. My kids have got a Halloween party they're going to for a little bit. They get to put their costumes on and go out and do that. So we're going to have some pizza on the menu for lunch, and then my nephew, Mr. Way Tom Tom, is in a pageant this afternoon. Cute little fella. Hopefully he wins, but it's a chili fest. So I assume there'll be some chili eating going on in my future this evening as well. And then I think we are going out for dinner today. So you'll miss the noon slate. I'm probably going to miss most of the 3 o'clock slate. Sometimes family does have to come first, but it's weeks like this, Brant, where we put our family first today. And then next week we tell them to get lost. I don't want to see you all day, right? So it's small sacrifices. Usually I like to, find time on the bye weeks to go do stuff and make the family feel important on that day as well. So I understand your point of it as well. Hopefully I get all my Falcons game in before I have to leave for the pageant. But again, family first sometimes, right, Brant?
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's talk about the Sunday night football game. We normally miss talking about those games. We've talked about it a few on the start sit. What do you like about this game? What fantasy do you actually like about this game when it's the number 1 and 2 defense going at each other?
Jake Moody. I like the kicker. I don't have much for you here. It's a battle of rookie kickers. That's about all I got for you. I'm not necessarily comfortable starting anybody. Obviously, CMC is a must start. CeeDee Lamb is a must start. Deebo Samuel is probably a must start. I don't have super high expectations for anybody on offense in this game, just because it's like this is one of those games where the defense on the other side of the ball is good enough that it could stop any fantasy relevancy from happening. And so I just don't feel super comfortable in any of them, but obviously you can't sit some of those guys. So yeah, I expect to watch that game and enjoy it because it's going to be a great game. I'm just, like I said, I'm not comfortable playing anybody, like having huge expectations, Brant.
Right. The kicker there in Dallas, because Dallas, what is it, Aubrey?
Mm-hmm.
Dallas has had trouble finishing in the red zone as it is, and now they got probably the best defense they've seen all year. I expect Aubrey to have a huge game. You could see this guy easily creeping into being the number 1 kicker this week. If you can't finish in the red zone when you're playing teams like, Arizona, how are you going to finish in the red zone when you're playing teams like San Francisco? So I expect the same thing as you. I don't expect anything huge out of either of the I expect an interception from both quarterbacks if that helps anybody put down some underdog picks. I think they both have higher than half an interception. So I expect them both to throw a pick this week.
Okay. Yeah, you're not going to get any argument on me. I did have Brock Purdy as my dud of the week in our Wednesday night recording where we talk about studs and duds from each position. So I'm not super sold on anything I've seen out of Brock Purdy yet that makes me think he's going to have a good game this week against the toughest defense he's seen. So I'm sitting him this week.
Absolutely. So we talked about who we think could be the RB1 on the week. Who's your favorite receiver this week? Let's not talk about the normal guys that are up there, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, we already talked about him enough. Who's your receiver that you think could come out of nowhere and finish inside the top 5? Let's put it that way.
Marquise Hollywood Brown, Brant. I'm completely on the train right now until I'm, bucked overboard or we derail. I'm rolling with him right now. I think, things are looking good in Arizona, and I'm not sure anybody expected that to start the season. I'm not sure Arizona expected to be playing how they're playing. So for me, I do like Marquise Hollywood Brown. The Bengals offense is one that if they do tie it all together this week, then the Cardinals are going to play from behind and they're going to have to throw the ball. But it's just like I said, I think I'm comfortable with where I'm at with the Arizona Cardinals offense right now. I didn't expect to be able to say that, Brant.
It's hard. It's still hard to say even after seeing it. So I already talked about how I feel about Pittman this week. I talked about Flowers, how I feel. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and talk about another guy I really like, and that's Jordan Addison. I expect this game to be a shootout. It's the highest point total on the week. I expect all the focus to be on Justin Jefferson. So I expect Jordan Addison to come out and be able to ball out this week, maybe find the end zone once, maybe twice, get his receptions in. I could see him easily creeping into the top 10. I know I did say top 5, but I could see him getting into the top 10 wide receivers this week. Like I said, I expect all of the focus from Kansas City to be on Jefferson and slowing him down. So I expect Addison to be the beneficiary of that this week.
Another one who I could see get there, Brand, as well is a guy who doesn't even play today. I could see Christian Watson creep in there. This is a guy that we've seen multiple touchdown games in the past. Again, not anything I've seen on the Raiders defense is scaring me off of Watson this week. That Green Bay defense or Green Bay offense looked to have a lot more rhythm and a lot more ability to move the ball last week when Watson was on the field. I expect him to be heavily involved this week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That offense is only going to get better. What is this second, maybe third week? Watson's been back. So it's all about getting the chemistry, and it's slowly going to be rebuilding. And this could be the breakout week of this year for Watson, because we did see plenty of breakout weeks last year. So I do like Christian Watson as well this week.
And for those of you who don't have the game on, we do have a score from the Buffalo Bills. Not shockingly, Josh Allen with a 15-yard touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs. So we are starting to get a little bit more action in the London game right now. So getting a little better just before half.
Is the Jags rush defense that good, holding James Cook to -2 yards rushing in the first half? That is crazy. This was a guy that everybody was high on, and he's had a great year. And the Jags are holding him in check so far. So this is a defense to really keep an eye on.
It is. I mean, look how many first-round draft picks are on that Jaguars defense. This is a defense that's been heavily invested in. So it is a pretty good defense and a pretty good squad. So yeah, definitely not one that I would fade in dynasty leagues or whatever. But so again, thanks for tuning in with us this week, guys. If you do have any last-minute start sits, we'll try to grab them real quick. Otherwise, don't hesitate to jump onto the Fantasyholics Facebook page and post them up on the start sit comment section. That'll be up there. There'll be a post, and there'll be guys that are very, very intuitive when it comes to the fantasy stuff, answering your questions on there. So don't hesitate if you have any questions after we end our stream here.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys will jump on, and somebody will be there to answer all your questions. Enjoy this game. Enjoy the second half of this game. I think Jacksonville just got into field goal range, so you're looking at probably a 1-touchdown game going into half. Obviously, he has to make the field goal first and stay in range, but it's looking like this second half could turn into a good game to start your morning. So enjoy the second half of this game. If you guys have James Cook started, I hope for a better second half, because I do have James Cook starting.
Me too. Me too. Me too.
Just a little love for Ridley.
That's pretty well sums up our day today, guys. Again, thanks for being here with us. We'll be back with you guys next week, same time, same place.
Yeah. As always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.